This is going to be my notes and reflections on Chapter 3 of B.J. Penn's autobiography, Why I Fight. Chapter 3 is called, I think, Unexpected Changes. Yeah, Unexpected Changes. And this is a spoiler alert. If you haven't read the book yet, and you think you're going to read the book, don't watch this video. If you had read the book and you want to compare notes, then go ahead and watch the video. If you're not going to read the book but you want to know what went on in the book, go ahead and watch the video. If you just want to read along, read the third chapter before you watch this video, then do that. I just don't want to spoil it for anybody that doesn't want to spoil, but I'm going to spoil it. So this is my notes and reflections for Chapter 3. And Chapter 3 picks up with B.J. Penn at age 16, where he has just finished homeschooling high school. And we had seen him in the second chapter take up kind of his own at-home boxing with friends, neighborhood kids, anybody they could come across. He started getting in trouble at school, which is why he ended up being homeschooled. He's doing drugs, partying with his friends, getting a lot of fights, and just enjoying being around Hawaii, enjoying the environment, and playing around on the rocks, on the surf, and then jumping off of bridges and waterfalls into sometimes shark-infested waters, and he's just getting his thrills. And my impression of Chapter 2 is that a lot of this was kind of like younger brother, younger sibling complex that he's kind of acting out, because it gets him attention. And if that attention is physical attention, like in the boxing and such, then he enjoys that too, because that's how he's used to getting attention probably from his older brothers. Anyway, so this is where it takes up with Chapter 3, and he's continuing to have all of these boxing matches at his house with his friends, and he's continuing to just enjoy hanging around all over the island where he's living, and partying, drinking, doing drugs, and basically being a kid, but being a little bit of a problematic kid. He's getting in lots of fights. His parents kind of turn a blind eye to the fights. Actually, I get the impression that his dad is kind of his dad might have had a rough upbringing himself, something like this, and he kind of thinks, well, that's what boys do, is get in fights and stuff like that. And yeah, boys do, but it seems from BJ's autobiography here that he's getting in a lot more fights than what I knew to be typical of growing up. Maybe that's just growing up a Hilo, but all the other stuff that he's doing is kind of typical of anywhere. And so I kind of wonder whether or not his getting in fights all the time is part of just his own character, or part of just his own character, and part of that acting out as the younger sibling in a way. Any case, he's doing all that, and then something kind of magical happened. His older brother comes home from University of Las Vegas or something like this. He went to Las Vegas to go to school. Came home, and he's going to go work out in a local gym. And while he's working out, he notices a flyer on the wall, and he takes his flyer and takes it home. And the flyer happens to be an advertisement for martial arts training somebody named Tom, I think his name Tom Kalos, and um, he's looking for people who are interested in learning jiu-jitsu, judo, kickboxing, taekwondo. You know, he himself, it seems, had just that day, in fact, that the flyer was picked up, moved to Hawaii, moved in with his girlfriend who had already established a place there. She was there to go to school, and so he moved over, moved into her place, went and hung up his flyers, plugged in his phone, and right away it started ringing from the Penn family, because BJ's older brother had brought home this flyer. And what Tom was looking for was somebody who wanted to do all this different training. He himself had been training, I think, Taekwondo under Ernie Reyes Sr. In California, and but he wanted to be a more well-rounded martial artist. There's some talk about how he's going to go back to California and have to go undergo some trials. I don't really understand what that is, whether it's that he's going to have to go do some fights, or whether he's going to be tested, or what's going on. But in any case, he's looking to become a much more well-rounded martial artist, and so he's looking for people that are interested in training in all of these different art forms, including the grappling and jiu-jitsu. And so why BJ's older brother brought this advertisement home is a little bit of a mystery, and this is where I think there's something a little bit magical at play, because their dad had dabbled in martial arts. Martial arts is already is a pretty big thing in Hawaii anyway, because of there's a large Asian and particularly Japanese community in Hawaii. So they'd always been exposed to martial arts. Why suddenly, with this particular flyer, did he take an interest, take it home, and there was this curiosity there. BJ's dad takes the flyer, ends up phoning this Tom, and it turns out that Tom happens to be living with his girlfriend in an apartment that's a rental from BJ's dad, and it's just down the road. So Tom comes over, talks to BJ's dad about what he's into and what he's interested in, why he's trying to find some people to train with, and BJ's dad gets a good impression off the guy, and he's thinking, he'd like his son to go train there. BJ himself is not interested, and but because this guy is just like living down the street from them and in one of their own properties, as time goes on, he keeps visiting with BJ's dad now and then, and soon enough, BJ's dad is kind of getting coercive and telling him, well, I want you to go try this. Go try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again, but at least give it a try. So BJ goes to try out what this guy's doing. It sounds like he's kind of set up in like a community center gym, and where there's some mats already that may have been there from previous like judo schools or something like that. And that day, Tom introduces him to jiu-jitsu, and it is a important moment for BJ because right away he realizes that this is something kind of amazing, that you can use your body in these ways to overcome potentially all different kinds of opponents. And there's just something that he sees in the jiu-jitsu that he wasn't expecting, and right away he's kind of hooked. He didn't think he was going to like it, but a moment happens for him, and right away he gets hooked to doing this. and he starts training practically every day. Starts going for a few hours a day, and he integrates it basically with his, he doesn't change his lifestyle or anything like that. He continues to party, continues to drink, continues to drug, continues to get in brawls and fights and stuff. Continues to just be a kid hanging out in Hawaii, but kind of on the edge of being a bad kid. But he's training jiu-jitsu every day, and he's loving it. And he gets to the point where, somewhere between 16 and 18, where he's pretty much learned everything that this Tom has to offer. One day, Tom wanted to try boxing with him, and BJ just totally beat him in the boxing because he'd been boxing with his friends on the front porch for so long. So then Tom feels, definitely that this kid is beyond his teaching now. And so this is a turning point, and Tom happens to have planned that he's going to go, for a visit to San Jose, back to California, because Ernie Reyes Sr. is turning 50, and he's been invited to the birthday party, and he wants to bring BJ along to introduce him to some of the other, some of these martial artists in California that might be able to take him up to the next level. This is 1996, I believe, or 1996 is when he first meets Tom, so by the time they're going to California, maybe 1998, I don't know, or close there too. And BJ is 17, 18, and at the time in Hawaii there's just one jiu-jitsu academy in Oahu, which is a different island, and that's the Helson Gracie Academy, I believe. But flying back and forth to Oahu is not realistic for training, and so if BJ is going to get any better, it's going to be somewhere else. And this is kind of what I think Tom has in mind, bringing him over there to California. BJ doesn't really want to go because he kind of senses this, I think, and he's got his friends in Hawaii that he's really close to and stuff, and he's got his girlfriend. He doesn't really want to go just even for a visit to California. But then, it is Dad's persistence. He decides to go ahead, and he brings his girlfriend with him. So that kind of helps him kind of relax and get into it. Goes over there, is introduced to Reyes, but is also introduced to Health Gracie, and is invited to come and try training at Health Gracie's school. So he does, and there's a couple of blue belt students, better blue belt students that Health matches him up against, and at first they're really beating him, but then he starts getting them locked in his guard in a way that they can't get around him and stuff like that. And then Health himself tries rolling with BJ, and of course is able to do whatever he wants with him. But in the long run, what it comes down to is he tries him out. Health tries out this BJ, and then gives him an invite. If you want, you can come and live here and train here with me, and learn more jiu-jitsu. And of course BJ doesn't want to do this because that would mean an end to his fun-loving life in Hawaii with all his friends and all the stuff he's used to, and he's just wants to just party. And kind of in this, I start getting the sense that he doesn't have really any certain ambitions. Doesn't seem to want to work or anything like that. He just wants to party with his friends. He's just about 18, if not 18, and something's a little bit off with him. basically he needs to fledge, he needs to get out of the nest. And this is what the whole chapter kind of reminded me of, is like a fledgling that doesn't want to leave the nest, but the parent keeps pushing them. And in this case, when Tom tells BJ's dad what the offer was and what his recommendation is, which is that BJ go and stay in San Jose and train and improve in his jiu-jitsu, BJ's dad basically tells him, okay, that's what you're going to do. Either you're going to do that or you're going to get a job. And you got 2 months to get a job, or you're going to San Jose to train. So 2 months goes by, no progress has been made, and his dad says, all right, you're going. And so at 18 years old, BJ Penn ships out to San Jose to train. So this is kind of the whole story that goes on in this chapter. And then in chapter 4, I'm sure we're going to get into what happened with him in San Jose at Ralph Gracie's school. But my impression of this chapter is what's interesting is the whole, like, I don't think it's a coincidence, actually, that his brother happened to bring home this flyer. I know it sounds kind of goofy and new agey, but sometimes things happen for a reason. And what it reminded me of is this time when we saw this, my wife and I were in a Starbucks coffee shop, and we saw this flyer that often in one of the Starbucks coffee shops here, people who have dogs to give away, or animals in general to give away, will put up flyers on this bulletin board, and there's always several of them. And one day we saw this flyer with this long-haired Chihuahua on that bulletin board, and my wife really wanted that dog, even though, you know, I had no intention of getting another dog. We already had another short-haired Chihuahua, and we have birds, and we have all of these, you know, animals already here. But she really wanted it. She took the number and hadn't called it yet, but then within, I think, a day, my daughter showed up at the door with her boyfriend and with that dog, and they were moving that dog into our house. So there was no coincidence. That dog was definitely meant to come and stay with us, and it was an abused dog, and its life has been totally turned around. In BJ's case, this is a troubled kid with younger sibling syndrome, basically, and you know, he's acting out to get attention, and he likes to fight to get that attention, and for no reason in particular, his brother happens to bring home and be excited about this flyer that introduces him to a guy that sets him on a path toward becoming a professional fighter. And I think BJ must have sensed that this was no coincidence either, because suddenly in the chapter, then he starts going back into episodes of childhood that might have hinted that this was going to be his path to begin with, stuff that he didn't mention in the chapters when we dealt with childhood, like how much he was into wrestling as a child, where he was always watching the pro wrestling and the those fights with Hulk Hogan and all of that. And then how at 12 years old he remembered being up late one night and watching a show about a martial artist. I forget even what the show was called, but the character's name on that show was named BJ, and suddenly it clicked that he could be a martial artist, kind of a thing. So there was these little things even prior to him being 16 and getting involved in jiu-jitsu that hinted at his future, and it seems like in the narration of this book he only recognized those things, or gave them recognition at least, after this incident happened with his brother bringing this paper. So, you know, I don't have like I don't have any particular religion that I follow or anything like that. Well, I do practice a Blackfoot Orthodox kind of spirituality, but that's all about nature. But I do believe that there's things like this that can happen, that you know, there's no accident, that BJ's brother happened to bring home this flyer, and that this flyer was from a guy who just that day moved into a house that BJ's dad owns and is just down the street from them, and he's going to start training in jiu-jitsu himself and wants to find training partners, and BJ's not doing nothing with his life except for getting in street fights and getting stoned and boxing in his front yard, and this is just perfect for him. And so whether crazy coincidence or divine intervention of some kind, BJ gets thrust into the real martial arts world. And so we're going to move on from there.